I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the office of President of the United States.
the office of President of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
I was a correspondent in Washington when Donald Trump took his oath of office. More than 2 months had passed since his election, which seemed to come out of the blue, both for American and European journalists.
So it's official. Donald Trump did it.
Yes, a big surprise for everyone, probably even for himself. In the meantime, fact-checkers have exposed thousands of lies told by Donald Trump. Yet that does not seem to bother his supporters. Indeed, an apparently outrageous claim he once made on the campaign trail could actually be true.
I have the most loyal people. Did you ever see that? Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible.
The Trump phenomenon, to begin with, is the dissolving of any objective reality in our politics. Central to Donald Trump is the big lie.
KKSY-FM, Cedar Rapids. Now another hour of Kiss Country music.
2 years after Trump's election triumph, I am back in the U.S. to investigate the apparently unshakable alliance between Trump and his supporters. I drive through the Midwest, flyover country, as the Americans call it. The journey takes us through small towns and agricultural regions with largely white populations. These constituencies once backed Barack Obama. In 2016, Donald Trump conquered nearly all of them. Weirton in West Virginia. Once home to one of the biggest steel mills in the world, it used to employ 14,000 workers. Now they barely count 700. The rundown industrial towns of the Rust Belt are home to the forgotten men and women, as Donald Trump called them. He promised to give them a voice. The former steelworker John Bolzano shows us some of the signs of decay.
This is an old movie theater. Building closed. Okay, see, this is downtown. See how it starts to get when industry went 20-some years ago? So, but it's reviving now. It's starting to come back.
I was in Weirton at the beginning of last year, shortly after Donald Trump's presidential inauguration. There was hope that things would start looking up under the new president. The mayor of the town predicted that Trump would restore the U.S. to its rightful place as #1 in the world. We ask how he feels about it 20 months later.
I did support Trump, and I continue to support him. He calls a spade, and he says what he thinks, and that's what it is. Most people in this area are totally supportive of Trump.
Still.
Even the union guys in the mill.
Still.
Oh, still, they are. You know why? Because he calls it what it is. You know, it's no, excuse my language. He'll run all that bad stuff I said on it. And you really know where he's coming from. He doesn't have a political agenda, I don't believe. He really wants to make the government, this country great again.
There are some signs of progress. A company has bought a large part of the old steel mill complex and is demolishing it with a view to setting up a modern industrial park. More than 100 workers were hired in Weirton in recent months. That may be a far cry from the town's glory days, but these are the first new industrial jobs here for more than 20 years. I arranged to meet an acquaintance at the headquarters of the local steel union.
Hi, Mark.
Good seeing you again.
Good to see you again.
Good
Thanks.
seeing you as well.
Thanks for having us.
In 2016, against the advice of his superiors, union leader Mark Glyptis endorsed Donald Trump. In an interview last year, he promised golden times for Weirton.
So I'm expecting many jobs that are going to be family-sustaining jobs, and we could be one of the biggest growth areas in the East. So I'm very optimistic. I think good times are ahead for this area. It is slower than I had hoped. I think it's going to come. I don't think there's any doubt that where our steel mill was and the land has been sold, it's going to be developed into family-sustaining jobs.
In the meantime, President Trump has imposed tariffs on steel and aluminum imports. Mark Glyptis sees it as the only way to tackle unfair business practices in China and other countries, whom he blames for the downfall of U.S. industry.
50 bankruptcies didn't occur because 50 companies were mismanaged. They occurred because the government turned their back on America and its workers, both Democrats and Republicans. I was never afraid of a trade war. I mean, we're the greatest country in the world, and you see people talking about, I'm afraid of a trade war. I don't want a trade war. However, I want it to be fair.
Ahead of the congressional elections, Donald Trump has gone to battle again. And it's just like 2 years ago. Wherever he makes an appearance, thousands flock to see him.
Excuse me, sir. This is Austrian real news. What are you expecting today? No word? Nothing. Nothing? Thank you.
Just like the demonstrative rejection of the media and the appeal to make America great again, the small band of counter-demonstrators is part of the ritual. Donald Trump is not on the ballot, but it's all about him.
If nobody shows up, everybody becomes complacent about things. So we need to show up and let them know that we're still out here and we still don't agree with him and that we're willing to do something about it.
Some people are calling the midterms a referendum on Trump's presidency. Supporters, meanwhile, are already working toward his re-election in 2 years' time.
Yeah, well, you know, I support the president, but I've supported Trump before he was president. But that's why I got into business, was because it was Trump. So had it been like Ben Carson or Ted Cruz, probably not. Hey guys, how we doing?
It's a pride in the country. You know, we have country, we have borders. And this is, you know, a true change to, we went from President Obama, who was, you know, globalism is what he was pushing. Now we've come back and the focus has been on the citizens of the United States again. So that's why all these people are here, is because they feel their voice matters again.
Here he is! Woo! USA! 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 USA!
He's making America great again. Jobs are up, taxes are down, defense is strong again. He's working hard on crime. He's doing all of the things that we've put him in office to do.
And by the way, you got thousands of people outside, and you have thousands of people who I just saw in a lovely room, but I said, next time you have to get here a couple of days earlier. Right?
Donald Trump is a very charismatic figure. His great skill is as a showman and as an entertainer. And he feeds into the anxieties of a certain group of Americans who believe the country is passing them by. that this is no longer the America that they know and love, that America is being undermined by illegal immigrants, by gays and lesbians, by minorities demanding special privileges. And Trump is not a conservative. He is a reactionary. He is a throwback to an earlier time, and that appeals greatly to this largely white, older segment of the population.
Donald Trump doesn't just mobilize his supporters, he mobilizes his opponents too. We visit Dubuque, Iowa, a typical small town. In towns like this and the outer boroughs of cities, Trump ruled the roost in 2016. But the pendulum may be swinging in the opposite direction. Surveys say women, especially, are turning away from the president. We visit Lindsay James, who has entered politics herself. The trigger for her came on the day after Trump's election victory.
I asked Mom, do we have to build a wall?
This was after we were talking about who the next president was?
Yeah.
What was it you were concerned?
Because other people can't come into our state that we are in.
I often say that kids are our most important responsibility and our most precious resources. And so really, knew in that moment when Jenny asked me whether or not we needed to build a wall, that was when I knew that I needed to do something more. And so that was what activated me to run for this seat. What do you think about Mom running now?
You're gonna win.
I'm gonna win! Jenny's my best supporter. Are you? And Luke is a realist in the family. Keeps me grounded. All right.
James is running for a seat in the Iowa House of Representatives.
Someone's home. Hi. I'm Lindsay James.
Never before have Democrats in the state been able to recruit so many women for politics.
Here with the film crew. In a documentary. I have been utterly moved by the amount of women who have, stepped up and said, we are not going to stay silent. There are protests that happen, women's marches around the country that are, showing that women are awake and they're activated and they are going to, push and advocate for doing what is good and right and just for women, but for everyone. So I am really proud of being a part of that. We see that in a local level. The organizations and the people, the activists that are coming out, they are led by women.
1565 is...
The main goal is to get out the vote for the Democrats.
Hey, thank you! Hello! You look like
Mobilizing women against Donald Trump shouldn't be too difficult. He's repeatedly made sexist remarks about women, derided the Me Too movement, and bragged about committing sexual abuse years before he became president.
All right, and then home address. Okay. And then the date is...
But signing up to vote is one thing. How people actually vote is another.
You voted Republican 2 years ago?
I sure did.
Yeah. Donald Trump?
Uh-huh.
Why?
I need to go.
Just the last one. And would you vote for him again?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I would.
Why?
I gotta go. Thank you. The women that I talk to who will still defend, Trump as a president has more to do with the decisions that he's making as opposed to the content of his character. Now, I think that's horrifying to me because I want the leaders of our country to be, leaders of incredible integrity. So it's really disappointing for me. And I think it does, push and oppress women, even more. And I think I'm grateful that there are women standing up saying, no, we won't allow that for that.
Washington, D.C., the center of power in America. The self-styled anti-establishment man, Donald Trump, said he would shake up Congress from the White House. Now, he is to be seen on Capitol Hill more often. The Republican majority in Congress, which was initially against him, does not dare to challenge Trump, the winner, especially at election time. A tax reform mainly favoring businesses and the wealthy is the Trump administration's model project. But what of the forgotten men and women?
Nothing. The tax cuts aren't going to help the forgotten men and women. Deregulation is not going to help the forgotten men and women. Yes, unemployment is low and jobs are being created, but that's been true for many, many years. This is not a trend unique to the Trump administration, and real wages, what really helps the forgotten people, have been pretty much stagnant.
It's a big day in Cascade, Iowa. There's an auction on at the local beef market. Farmers here have always been grassroots Republican voters. We want to know whether that still applies now that the trade dispute with China is biting. The auctioneer's efforts to drive the price up meet with limited success. The prices for the calves are pretty low, but there is no guarantee that raising them will be a profitable venture. Many of the farmers here prefer to sit back and watch. Is Trump to blame for their financial doldrums?
He needs to do something to help us.
What should he do?
I don't know. Regulate the prices a little like other countries?
Yes, majority of them.
Did you vote for him?
Unfortunately, yes.
China has imposed tariffs on agricultural products in retaliation for Trump's trade restrictions. Now there is not enough demand to meet supply.
It's hard to make a living. You can get by, but you ain't gonna get rich at it, put it that way.
Sometimes you break even, sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
All depends on which end of the line you're on. The rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer, is what it boils down to.
Mom, there's a...
But he promised something different.
Yeah, he said he's going to tax the wealthy and make them pay more taxes. And
but actually, he's taxing the other people.
I don't think it's actually going to come true, to be honest with you.
The beef auction yielded some 10% less than the previous one just a few months ago. Still, the head of the auction house says Trump is on the right track.
I mean, I guess we just, for the longest time, just kind of did whatever they said, and then we got Donald Trump in there. He just said enough is enough, and I mean, if what comes around goes around, I guess, you know. So it'll be rough for the next few years, but I think once it comes around, it'll be good for us.
New York, though Donald Trump's native city, did not elect him. The people in this overwhelmingly Democratic city have a little more in common with those in the Midwest than their mutual mistrust. The Austrian investment consultant Hans Christian Winkler has been working in New York's financial district for more than 20 years. Even here, Donald Trump was not the favorite candidate for president. But after the election, Wall Street went from strength to strength.
When Trump actually won, I slept rather badly. But then the market went up, because the stock market is not stupid. They immediately studied what Mr. Trump said. Trump made 3 promises: tax cuts, $1 trillion investment in infrastructure, and deregulation. And that's what drove the markets up. That was exactly the winning bet the following day.
With Trump's trade disputes causing concerns, Wall Street has been a warier place in recent weeks. It seems investors haven't quite gotten used to surprises from the White House after all.
With Trump, you don't know what will happen or what he will say from one day to the next. If you can't sleep for fear of his slip-ups, then you have invested badly, in my opinion. You have not diversified your portfolio enough. But these slip-ups will always happen, and it's only a question of time before the next one comes.
In Washington, Trump recently had to defend the reputation of his nominee for the Supreme Court, Brett Kavanaugh. He was accused by a woman of attempted rape decades ago when she was 15 and he 18. Donald Trump, who has himself been accused of sexual assault by several women, went on the counteroffensive.
We want clean water. We want crystal. The Democrats have been trying to destroy Judge Brett Kavanaugh since the very first second he was announced. And he was announced for one simple reason. He is an incredible intellect, an incredible person, an incredible talent.
Most of the people here are not the losers of globalization. Many of them are from the relatively well-off middle classes. What unites them is an aversion to political correctness, the coastal elites, and the conviction that their man is a straight shooter. Most Trump supporters regard allegations of collusion with Russia or hush money to cover up affairs as politically motivated.
The way he's speaking about women.
It's the same thing that I met her with.
Stop!
And the same thing you met your wife with.
It's just,
don't laugh, you too, hot dog.
It's crude. What kind of trouble are you? But it's men versus women, and men are more crude talking. It's nothing that doesn't happen in everyday life. Although it's wrong that things happen like that, it happens every day. It's not just him.
But he's the president.
He's the president of the United States of America. And even if you hate him, you need to support him because he's leading our country.
No, we don't.
So even all these people out here who don't like him and didn't vote for him, they need to support what he's doing to make our country better.
Back in Iowa. In the Democrats' campaign headquarters in Dubuque, Lindsay James rallies her mostly female support. They plan one last push to get out the vote, especially the female vote.
That's his favorite thing to say. I don't know.
One of the biggest goals is to reverse the Republican majority in Congress. That would do a lot to reduce the president's ability to fulfill his electoral promises.
Our legislative makeup, and Lindsay is the state rep.
Hello, hello! It's always encouraging to see many faces. Thank you for being here.
We're going to have our blue wave, what we're going to have. So.
You think so?
Yeah, I know so. We're working for it.
So.
We know so. We're working for it. That's what we're doing.
That is what was said 2 years ago.
This is different now. There's women coming out of the woodworks that never campaigned before. And we're door knocking on people who are Republicans, and they're saying, no, we're going to vote Democrat this time. So we've never heard that much before.
For some activists, mobilizing the electorate is the only way to defeat Trump.
It's so important that people stay involved. There are too many people that can't be bothered. And you look at the number of people who did not vote in the last election. They're the ones that elected Trump.
I am grateful that you are in this with me, and
Lindsay James and her supporters are convinced that they are on the path to victory and that their approach is a righteous one.
I am surrounded by people who are, cheering on women leaders and cheering on Democrats. across, up and down the ballot, and who are seeing the importance of being involved in our political systems and structures. And I think people are recognizing that democracy is at stake, and the freedom of the press is at stake, and women's rights are at stake, and our kids are at stake.
For a different angle, we go back to the steel town of Weirton in West Virginia. The oldest bar in town used to be a busy place. The drinkers here now are all regulars who have been coming here for years. Many of them used to come in here for a drink after their shifts at the mill.
We're not forgotten, we're just pushed out of the way. That's all.
By whom?
They don't want nothing to do with anybody from West Virginia. All they want to do is shut all the coal mines down, shut everything down in this country, in this state.
The men here acknowledge that even Trump won't be able to bring back the glory days. But they say he is on their side nonetheless.
I believe he looks out for the people. I mean, if you think about it, the man did not have to run for presidency. As far as I'm concerned, he has more money than what you could shake a stick at, and I think he's trying to help out the country. He's looking out for the country. I know a lot of people don't believe that, but that's my opinion.
I'm a Democrat, and I'm ashamed that I am a Democrat.
How come?
I'm serious. Because you're supposed to work with the president. You get a president, you're supposed to work with him. I mean, how long has he been there? 2 years? Pretty close to 2 years. They haven't done anything. Anything but fight.
For Frank Zapp, opposing the president is un-American. He says it wouldn't have happened in the past.
Let's make America great again. Well, America was great, and
but it's not yet great again.
Oh yeah, it's great. Why not? I mean, we got a lot of freedom. I don't know what great again. There was a great before. Why, Greg? It was a lot greater. That was great. I loved it in the '60s. Well, you know, 70s. Back then, everybody made good money. Sure. Now, he used to come in his bar, he could find a place to sit down. There'd be people everywhere.
We have reached the end of our journey through a divided country. It wasn't Trump who caused the divisions, but he has certainly deepened them. After the deadly shooting attack in a synagogue and the letter bombs sent to prominent Democrats in recent weeks, the president has called for unity. But that call cannot gloss over the allegation that the Trump phenomenon has been instrumental in the growth of hate.